Good. We are live on YouTube. Now we're going to try to go live on Facebook. And then we should be in business. Facebook likes to take its time these days. And there we are, live on YouTube and Facebook. So welcome everyone to our live stream on our podcast today. Another beautiful day in Florida, right? A little bit hot. Not up there north, Terry. How is the weather over there right now?
Here it is about 70 degrees.
70. All right, we're hitting 95 here in just an hour.
Very nice, nice breeze.
Nice breeze. We are here with a few special guests. Some of you already know Mitch Booth. He's the local owner of Love Whole Foods, location here in Ormond Beach and obviously Port Orange. A health advocate and public speaker, really helping people to overcome their struggles when it comes to disease, obtaining optimal weight, optimal health, etc. But obviously, we're still here in this quote-unquote pandemic. A lot of people are getting more and more concerned with the numbers going up, positive tested numbers. So we're here again, and we have a really special guest all the way from Green Bay, correct?
Green Bay.
Correct.
And we have here Terry Limerand. And Terry has a very interesting background. He has over 4 decades of experience in natural medicine, supplementation. He's a formulator. He actually is the founder of Enzymatic Therapy, the CEO of Terry Naturals, and obviously also a renowned lecturer and educator. So Terry, before we get into this, COVID-19, 20 and everything that's going on around us, tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, and your experience.
Well, a little bit. I'm not president of Enzymatic Therapy. That was a company I founded in 1982.
Okay.
And I sold that company in 2000, and then I waited till my non-compete contract expired. And then I started another company called Euro Pharma, and the brand name is called Terry Naturally.
Okay.
I had a number of health food stores that were called Terry Naturally. I do radio shows every week, and I always start the radio show saying, "Greetings, everyone. This is Terry Naturally." So everybody got the name Terry Naturally associated with my background.
I get it. Now, Mitch
when I
has...
first started out, Dr. Mike, I was very, very unhealthy. I'm 5'6", 5'7".
Okay.
Right now I weigh 159 pounds. At one time I was close to 250 pounds. Very, very depressed. I had severe hypoglycemia.
Mm-hmm.
I was very angry, very obnoxious, belligerent. I was really a person you did not want to be associated with. I was a jerk.
You were a pleasure to be around.
Long story, but I have 3 angels in my life that have changed my life. One was the Catholic priest. I went to Catholic high school, grade school, and he told me that, "Terry, if you don't change your life, you're going to go to jail." So he said, "You better think about that," and I did. I entered the Marine Corps. That was better than jail.
That's right.
And the captain of the Marine Corps took a liking to me, and he got me on the trail of health and nutrition. He took me to my very, very first health food store in Oceanside, California. And then, a long story short, I started working in a health food store back in Green Bay, Wisconsin, actually free of charge because I just wanted to be there. I loved it. I had a passion for it.
Yeah.
And a long story short, the lady said, "I'm retiring, and I want somebody to take over my store for me." And I said, "Well, I'm sure I can help you find somebody." She said, "No, I found that person already." I said, "Well, who's that?" She said, You take over my store for me." And I said, "Claire, I don't have a dime to my name." She said, "I'll tell you what, here's my asking price. You pay me when you can." So over the years, I paid her off, and it developed into 2 manufacturing companies. And it's a company that I have such a passion for it. I'm here at 5 o'clock in the morning. I work 10 hours, 15 hours a day. I used to travel all over the world looking for new products and discovering new ideas, new concepts of health and nutrition.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if people would realize how they can make changes in their life, I'm much, much older than I was 60, 70 years ago. But I do more today. I work out, I travel. I just have a life of passion, and you can change your life. I don't care how bad off you are, or how old you are, or how bad you think you are. You're not. You can make changes, and you can be healthier, and you can be better if you just have the discipline and make the choices to change your lifestyle. Because 98% of all disease is caused by our lifestyle choices. It's what we do every day that causes our diseases.
No, I mean, we're obviously 100% with you. And again, you're a product of the product, and that what motivated you to go help other people, because you were, your own self, your own testimonial, right?
Oh, absolutely. When I saw what happened to myself, I said, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to preach the gospel, because if I can change like this,
everybody
there are
can.
others out there that can change too, that are suffering and don't realize they can make changes, because nobody like you guys are making a way to get to the public to help them understand more about health and nutrition. I do that on my radio shows, but we can help people understand it's not the drugs that cure anything. They don't even make us healthy. They make us unhealthy. There are more side effects. So we really need to tell people that what you're doing every day is what's causing your diseases or causing your health. And it's not the doctor, it's not drugs, it's not somebody else that's going to intervene for you. You and I have the responsibility for our health, and we're the only ones that can improve our health.
Yeah, we got to make that choice. I always call it health freedom. We need to choose health freedom, not just responsible for ourselves, but our loved ones, especially if we're talking about our children. We got a great responsibility there too, to really at least look at the other options here to regain control of your health. Now, Mitch also told me that, with you traveling the world, finding these supplements and these, herbs and plants and whatever, you actually were successful in bringing some of those to the United States and introducing them. Can you expand a little bit on what supplements or nutrients they were?
Well, years ago, I was studying nutrition and health on my own, and I was in the health food business. I was in a health food store, and I ran across a book. It was a red, almost about 4 inches thick. It was called the Rote List, R-O-T-E, Rote List.
Okay.
It was a German book, but all the botanicals that were listed in it were Latin. I excelled in Latin in school, so I understood the products. And the Rote List stands for the Red List, and it was a pharmaceutical dictionary of all the botanical extracts that were sold throughout Europe. So I went to Europe, and I started calling on doors of these manufacturing facilities that had what they called at that time medicines and drugs, because that's what they classified herbal medicines in Europe.
Sure.
So when I called on them, they did not really want to talk to me, because you don't sell medicines like we do. You sell dietary supplements. I said, you're selling an herb that we can sell in the United States that we don't call medicine, but we want better quality materials than we have in the U.S. Because in the U.S. at that time, they were doing no standardization. They were doing no quality control. All the herbs were moldy. They were not even standardized. You didn't know if you were going to get the results from batch to batch. No capsules were exactly the same. So we wanted standardization. We wanted the best quality materials. So there was standardization in the European market. We just introduced it to the U.S. We didn't develop it, but we just brought it to the U.S. and started telling people that you need to have a standardized extract if you want to have good health results. And that's what we did. We brought in glucosamine sulfate. We brought in IP6. We brought in St. John's wort. We brought in sulfur middleberry. We brought in almost the whole line of herbal medicines that were sold in Europe. We did not sell them as medicines. We sold them as dietary food supplements.
Yes.
And that's what made the difference between the two. They were not classified as drugs.
Well, that's excellent. So you really were the driving force of really standardizing these nutraceuticals and bringing them a little bit at a much higher standard by having these GMP certification, ISO certification, those types of things that we now look for. Because I know in Mitch's store, all his supplements are at least GMP certified.
Right, but when we opened the store 30 years ago, Love Whole Foods opened. Let's take licorice, for example. The only thing that the doctors knew about herbal medicine was that licorice would raise your blood pressure. Mm-hmm. Except the German Commission E had already studied licorice and knew that if you took the glyceride out of it, making a DGL depleted licorice, mm-hmm. that you got all of the health benefits without any of the side effects.
Yes.
And that was another gift that Terry taught in his lectures going back to the very beginning of the store, was this German Commission E. The doctors would say, well, there's no valid scientific data to substantiate what Terry just has talked about.
Yeah.
And Terry said, well, yeah, there is. Yeah. The Germans have what's called the German Commission E. And that's exactly what they assembled in that medical resource, was the proof that echinacea had the ability to stimulate the thymus gland. That's not a speculative sales pitch. The Germans had studied it. Is it? I mean, am I off base there, Terry? I mean,
No, you're right on target. You're right on.
and then I just happened to have a brother-in-law who was a medical doctor at University of Munich, and his fort was translating German medical literature on things like Wolbenzyme. And Terry knows what Wolbenzyme was, right? Yeah. Except that Terry was making a product even better than the German Wolbenzyme for less money.
Yeah.
And there are all the data that my brother-in-law was reading. I still have the text. All of the double-blind placebo effects of Wolbenzyme as a proteolytic enzyme. Terry, the man that we're speaking with, introduced proteolytic enzymes into the medical field.
Yeah, and they're used very successfully.
Well, and then we have the latest. Sadly, the latest exponent was Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez, who was using basically this man's formula. It was Megazyme. Megazyme. I can't even tell you how many people I worked with, and all I had to do was twist their arm to say, take 7. It's not a drug. You're not going to take 1, but you take 7. And if your pain doesn't go away, and when you wake up in the morning, you bring it back, I'll give you your money back.
Yep.
I don't think I ever took a bottle of Megazyme back.
I still use, and I don't know if I still use a lot of serapeptase, mostly because it's strongly anti-inflammatory, but also fibrolytic, right?
Sure.
And so many times I'll love to use serapeptase. I take it myself too in between workouts to get that inflammation down. And again, it helps with scar tissue too. But Terry, it's interesting that you say that, because I mean, I was always doing sports in the past, and then I traveled with some Olympic swimmers, and I really got interested in supplements because, you get approached when you work with athletes like, hey, this supplement. So I had to start doing my research in supplements. And the first type of nutrients or herbs or plants that I looked into were adaptogens, because in the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, the Russians had an edge on the Americans. And so later on, there were many publications that said that not just the Russian athletes, but their cosmonauts, which are the astronauts in Russia, right? The cosmonauts, the chess players, the Bolshoi dancers, their politicians, they all were taking these herbal plants called adaptogens. The Schisandra chinensis, Raponticum cartamoides, Eleutherococcus senticosus, the ginsengs and stuff. And so they were taking that. And in Russia at the time, they didn't have a choice. They were giving it to the people, and they had to take it. And what I was stunned about was that there were long-term studies, 20, 30 years on these herbs, where thousands of factory workers had to take these herbs before they went to work each and every day. They didn't have a choice. And so they kept track of the absentees and the health of their thousands of workers in Russia, communism, right? And so, it's amazing. And so people still today, they think that these plants and herbs doesn't have any research. It's amazing how many thousands and thousands of peer-reviewed research articles are there on all these natural substances and plants and herbs. You just got to look for them. And many of them are on PubMed, right? I mean,
right.
I'm sure.
But you're talking 1984. There was no, the internet was in its infancy.
Yeah.
But Terry, this man that we're talking to, provided information sheets from the very beginning, annotated with the research look at the library behind the man that's sitting here.
Yeah.
Those aren't Shakespeare novels in the background. Those are the things that Terry has used to do just what you talked about.
So Terry, I talked a little bit about adaptogens. That's actually how I got introduced to the whole world of supplements. But you know a lot about Andrographis. Can you share with the viewers what Andrographis is, what it does, what the benefits are, and then how does it play in our immune system? Because we are going to talk a little bit about the pandemic.
Andrographis is one of the most powerful adaptogens. It is an adaptogen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a tonic to the entire body. There is no real side effects or toxic adverse events. It has a huge effect on a number of conditions, and that's why it's so useful. In fact, about 25% to 30% of all the Ayurvedic herbs and formulations in India contain andrographis. Yes. It has an effect on the liver, the heart, the brain. In fact, the brain, I'll tell you, there's a very, very good study called chemobrain, because when you are under chemotherapy, there's a lot of damage to the brain, there's a lot of damage to the liver. But if you're on andrographis, it actually protects the liver and the brain from damage of the chemotherapy. It's also a very powerful anti-inflammatory. It's a very powerful anti-infective for any kind of kidney infection, upper respiratory tract infection, cold and flu. It actually turns around the non-alcoholic liver disease. Andrographis is one of my favorite products. We've done some really good research with it. There's some really good research on it. It's going to be published within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Actually, we did a really interesting study on four different studies with andrographis on colon cancer, and we did a study with curcumin, and curcumin was really effective. Then we did the same study with grapeseed extract, and it was as effective or more effective than curcumin. Then we did andrographis, and it just wiped those two off the map, almost, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because andrographis is much more powerful for reducing cancer of the colon than either the grapeseed or the curcumin. But the best results we got was a combination of grapeseed and andrographis, and that was very, very powerful. And it was also shown to prove as effectively with drugs. A lot of times doctors say don't take anything with your chemotherapy. Don't take herbal products or vitamins or minerals. But we've been proven over and over that curcumin, grapeseed, and andrographis can be taken with medication, with drugs, and actually makes the drugs more effective on a lesser dosage and less toxic to the liver. So there's good value to the herbal things. Maybe they don't do it all themselves, but you can do a combination with some chemotherapy and reduce the side effects of chemotherapy and get a better result when you have a combination of the herbal medicine along with the chemotherapy.
Makes a lot of sense.
Let me just interject, especially where Terry's talking about the curcumin. Terry naturally is actually working with Baylor University and Dr. Anjay Goel in their oncology department. So what we're talking about here isn't infomercial. This is money being spent in double-blind placebo studies with people that are faced with the cancers that now, which is the real, in my opinion, the real epidemic. And then for the listeners that don't know what Terry's referring to, the curcumin is the orange extract. It's the bioflavonoid in the turmeric, the spice, for those that are listening that don't know.
And I think a lot of people are starting to get familiar with turmeric or curcumin because of their pain and inflammation. It really helps with pain and inflammation too. So a lot of people are trying because it's getting known amongst the common people, I think, and that's a good thing, obviously. Now, Terry, if you put andrographis in PubMed, I think there's over 800 results that are popping up also on PubMed. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few studies on andrographis. And andrographis particularly is for infection, upper respiratory tract infection, kidney infection, all different kinds of cold and flu. In fact, you will respond better in 2 or 3 days on andrographis than you will in 5 to 10 days without andrographis.
Yep. I take it every day. I take it every day, amongst many other things. Now, we're still in this COVID pandemic, right? A lot of people are speculating that this is just the beginning and something worse is coming. People are in fear. The numbers in Florida especially are rising. Whether those numbers are valid or true, who knows these days, right? Because you can find what you're looking for. That's pretty much it. But from a health point of view, how can we, and I just wrote a book on it, but how, in your opinion, can we really be bulletproof on what's coming to us, and what are the key components here to really boost our immune system?
Well, that's the most important thing, I think, is just to make sure that the immune system is operating at a peak optimal level. You know, we have a lot of sick people in America. And in fact, Dr. Mark Hyman said recently on a interview that 88% of Americans, adult Americans, are susceptible to infection, to upper respiratory tract infection, because we are sick.
Mm-hmm.
We are the sickest country in the world of all industrialized nations. 170 million people have underlying health conditions, whether it be diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, cancer, or whatever it might be. Our immune system is totally compromised by all these conditions we're going through. The American diet is 80 to 90% carbohydrates and sugar. We are not eating a diet that is supporting a healthy immune system.
Mm-hmm.
And the immune system is what I look at it as the military of the body. It's like an army of the city or an army of a country that's protecting the country from an invader of a foreign invasion. So our immune system is protecting us from a foreign invasion of that would be bacteria or fungal infection or viral infection. And it's there to work for us. We've survived 3 million years without drugs, without vaccines, and we're still here. And it's all based on food. In fact, Americans consume 80% of all the drugs that are manufactured worldwide.
Yep.
8% of all the pain-relieving drugs manufactured worldwide. And 80% of all the world only depends on plant medicines. We're the only country in the world that think that drugs are the answer. And of course, I'm not against drugs overall, because in an emergency or a crisis,
Sure.
I don't want somebody to run over me with a car and say, "Here's a vitamin C tablet." I don't want a vitamin C tablet. I want a drug to help save me. Then I can go on back to my vitamin C and my nutrition. But to build the immune system, that's what we really need to do, and that's what we're not doing. And we have to also have to realize that 70 to 80% of the immune system is in the gut, the intestinal tract.
Yeah.
So all the stuff that we pour into that intestinal tract, that poor intestinal tract, these big, huge 20-ounce soft drinks with 40 grams of sugar,
high fruit,
all the junk, all the fast food, all the synthetic chemicals, all going into our gut, destroying our immune system. We have nothing left to protect our body from viral infection or bacterial infection or any other kind of fungal infection. So we're at mercy of these viruses or whatever they are floating around. Sometimes it's going to have a huge effect on us because we have nothing left to fight with. And we need nutrition. Nutrition, in fact, there are essential vitamins and minerals that we can't live without. We can't live a day without.
Right.
And we need those vitamins and minerals and accessory food factors to support the immune system, like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, selenium, vitamin D. All these nutrients are required by the immune system to function, to be normal. And all these other herbal medicines are like the icing on the cake. They make extra benefits for our immune system. But we can't start off without having the vitamins and minerals in our diet first. That only comes from food or from supplements, not from drugs.
And that's why we've always been a whole food store from the very beginning,
Yep.
trying to get those fruits and vegetables they were the way they were when we were born. Before the advent of genetically modified crops and before the advent of post-World War II herbicides and pesticides, the largest herbicide in the world is Roundup, and we consume or put on 80% of that production is put on our crops.
Yeah.
And we had Dr. Seneff speaking just like we had Dr. Teitelbaum and so many other, Terry himself coming and talking about the impact on the food. We've allowed antibiotics to permeate the food. We've allowed these sugars, and Terry knows they're not sugar. High fructose corn syrup is a drug.
Yeah.
It's not a sweetener, it's a drug. It guarantees that you're going to have metabolic syndrome. Guaranteed.
It guarantees you're going to be fat, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I was just looking at a website, the number one drug prescribed in America, number one, more scripts written than any other drug, is levothyroxine. Well, you don't need a degree from Harvard Medical School to figure if the number one drug is a synthetic hormone for thyroid dysfunction, then maybe we ought to be thinking about the fact that we have a thyroid epidemic going on. As you introduced me to Dr. David Bronstein, who's from Detroit. We're buddies from the University of Michigan. I can only say he nails it. What we need to do is get to the underlying cause. What's causing the thyroid epidemic? And what impact does that have on what Terry's saying with the immune system?
No, I always try to simplify it, Terry. I always tell the cause of all disease is toxemia. And toxemia basically means toxins in the blood, right? But we are producing toxins as a result of normal metabolism, obviously. But our body is able to eliminate those toxins, so no harm is done. However, if we are exposed to or ingest more toxins with all these man-made foods, then our body possibly can eliminate, then those toxins accumulate in our blood and body, and that's what's called toxemia. And this toxemia now creates a state of emergency, and in Western medicine, we call that systemic inflammation, which causes all disease. It causes systemic inflammation. It also causes free radical damage, right? So from a simplistic point of view, all we need to do to avoid toxemia and therefore any disease is to reduce the exposure and the intake of toxins and increase the ingestion of nutrients that fight systemic inflammation and free radical damage.
Right.
And so instead of being fearful and reactive and waiting for a supposedly vaccine solution, which of course I'm smiling as I say that, why don't we take control? Why don't we take responsibility and be proactive? If bad things are coming, why aren't we making ourselves bulletproof and go to our local functional medicine doctor, our local health food store for advice, or nutritionists like myself who can help guide you in the right direction on how to become healthier, avoid the wrong foods, take in more of the healthy foods, take the right supplements. Because Mitch is saying, he has great whole foods, and whole foods, organic foods are obviously important because we avoid all those toxins, right? But at the same time, I do feel, and you guys can jump in if you don't agree, but I do feel that even if we try to eat exclusively organic whole foods, we still need high quality supplements. And the top reasons that I think for that are, number one, even if Mitch has whole foods in his store, there's always a time that lapses between harvest and consumption. And during that time, still many nutrients are lost. We don't get it out of our own yard anymore, or we don't have an aquaponic system, right? So for example, if we store asparagus for 1 week, 90% of the vitamin C is gone. If we pick an apple from a branch, 30 minutes later, 50% of the enzymes are gone. So yes, we got to eat exclusively organic, wholesome foods, but we need those high-quality supplements. Our soils are deprived of minerals, especially if they're not organic soil. After World War II, we start using NPK fertilizers, which is 3 minerals. Our body needs 70 or more minerals to function optimally. And then the third point I like to make is we don't live in pristine areas anymore. We live in cities and towns, and so we have exhaust fumes. We have chlorine fumes from the showers. We got all the environmental toxins, which are too many to name, our household products. The list goes on. So we need to upgrade our diet, but we need those high-quality supplements to counteract those effects of our environment.
And Terry would share one of the things that my mentor has been so generous with is to understand the impact of stress. What's happened since World War II and the psyche of Americans is almost incomprehensible. And we know it because it manifests in the sleep disorders, it manifests in the gut disorders, and it's that unremitting stress where in the past, the Huns or the Vikings would show up and, the smoke cleared and then maybe you were good for a couple of decades, right? The smoke doesn't clear anymore.
Daily.
Now we're involved in technology that constantly is sucking us into an energy level that is counterindicated for just what you said, optimal health. This gentleman introduced the idea, we don't want to be healthy. We want to be extremely healthy. We want to be the exponent of optimal nutrition, not just what the government does. What is it, Terry? Recommended daily allowance or right? The RDA. And there isn't anyone who shops at my store that doesn't see. We're going to do 60 milligrams of vitamin C and prevent scurvy. You know, I think people are looking beyond, especially now with going back to COVID. We know that the vitamin C plays a vital role, especially if you combine it with the zinc.
Yeah.
And now it's not all zinc. It's the zinc that Terry introduced 30 years ago when I met him. You know, we weren't just talking zinc oxide. You know, he was looking at Hans Nieper's research. Not that anybody knows who Hans is, but I know.
Sounds German to me.
Yeah, well, you know, and all of a sudden we know that there are chelates that make, you know, the calcium carbonate, which was, when we opened the store, calcium carbonate was the standard for building bone.
Yeah.
Well, the only trouble is that it caused kidney stones and gallstones.
Yeah.
If you had a lot of cholesterol. Oh, we won't even get started on the cholesterol.
No.
This gentleman introduced Google lipids from the Google Muco plant. You know, I talked with a cardiologist and he laughed at me. You know what? That cardiologist is dead. You know, and this is a true story, Terry. I never even told you this one. And I'm not being critical of the medical profession. It's what you know, or more important, what you don't know, right? And this whole theory that cholesterol was bad was something that we struggled with.
Mine is higher than anybody else's because it's a vital substance, and I'm okay with it.
And
my triglycerides are low, but my cholesterol's high.
But Terry's the first one to tell you that if the triglycerides are low, you're not gonna get a blood clot.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about another epidemic that I'm really passionate about is Alzheimer's. You know, I'm working with Dr. Bradenson at the Buck Institute in UCLA, and he's as frightened as I am. I mean, there are no drugs for it. Mm-hmm. So you want to talk about, at least with COVID, we can say, well, you know, the guy on the white horse is going to show up. Fauci's going to have his vaccine, his magic vaccine, like he did with, well,
HIV.
He tried to do it with HIV. Hopefully he'll do better. But on this issue of Alzheimer's, there aren't any drugs. I'm not being critical of the drug industry. It just, if you're talking about something that we know is a comorbidity factor here in my town,
yeah,
the number one victim list are people in these assisted living facilities that have Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And I just, so again,
it's all those toxins that are causing it.
Absolutely, but we don't kick on
back to basics.
I'm just saying, if there isn't a drug, then one of my ideas to ask Terry was, what's plan B? Plan B is don't get Alzheimer's.
Yeah. So Terry, why don't you share with the viewers, I would think, if you can give them any tips regarding this COVID-19 20, what would be your top 3, top 5? Because I know we can talk about everything. Suggestions they can start with immediately to change things around. And then, you know, like you said, and what would your plan B be? Plan B be?
You know, there's really no study done with COVID-19 and nutritional products,
sure,
vitamins, minerals, and supplements. So you can't say that anything is going to cure COVID-19 or going to reduce the COVID-19 infection or going to prevent it. But we have to have a healthy body. A healthy body is going to maintain its own equilibrium and its own balance throughout life. So rather than waiting until, you know, we have 49% of all Black Americans in an obese stage. We have 42% of all white Americans that are obese, and we have 44% of all Hispanic obese. Now, obesity in itself is a major precursor of all kinds of diseases. Then we have heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, cancer. We are a country that is struggling to be healthy, and it doesn't take much for a virus now to have an effect on the body because we are not strong, we're not healthy. And I think the big thing to do is maintain health. And what I would suggest, I don't suggest a daily vitamin supplement because the daily vitamin supplement doesn't have enough vitamins in one little tablet to make any difference. I recommend a good daily supplement that has at least 2 to 4 tablets daily. That way you get your full volume, or your full potency of nutrients. I would take extra endographis. I would take extra vitamin C, maybe extra zinc, selenium. All of these nutrients make a huge difference on the quality of our immune system. Build the immune system, build the health of the body so that you can maintain health overall. You know, there's some really good studies. I ran across a really good animal study. It was at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where they took two groups of animals. One group of animals was fed regular animal chow with extra selenium. The other group was given a diet that purposely made the animal deficient in selenium. Okay, now the first group, they introduced a virus by injection, and some of the animals got sick, some mildly to moderately sick. They got sick, okay. They didn't die. But in the group of animals that they avoided selenium, they made sure that they were selenium deficient. The virus became virulent, meaning it became a killer.
Yeah.
So many of those animals died. So
one simple nutrient.
One human study. I'm not going to wait until they find out it's going to work in a human study. I'm taking it now.
Because it doesn't harm you anyways.
No, but Terry, you know that in the American Cancer Society published in the 1950s the significance of selenium in fighting cancer, all cancers. That was in the 1950s.
Prostate and breast cancer.
Right, specifically breast cancer, but it was all cancers.
It doesn't make any money, guys.
In fact, it could reduce 50% of all cancers in our lifetime. So, you know, why are people waiting? And then when they get sick, they get, you know, chemotherapy, and it tears the family apart until it destroys the individual. These drugs are so toxic and so, you know, they have so many side effects. Just think what we could do if we were healthy. But no one preaches health. No one preaches nutrition. The government doesn't want to. There are no drug companies that want to. That, you know, they don't make any money on nutrition. Government doesn't really care. Nobody is instructing the American people. Let's just get well, and you know, don't have to worry about a virus when it comes.
No, correct. You want to add something to that, Mitch?
No, I did.
I mean, it's very simple, right? I mean, we always come back to the same simple basics: is upgrade your diet and take the right supplements and choose to be, you know, responsible and choose to be healthier. And just, you know, I mean, the example of selenium is great. That's just one nutrient that can make a difference, right? What if you make sure that you consume either through whole foods or supplements all the essential nutrients that we need on a daily basis? And that's what I've been preaching. We don't have to be health freaks either. People think we need to become a health freak. No, we don't, because as long as you give your body all the essential nutrients it needs on a daily basis, it can use those nutrients to repair, replenish, and renew itself. And so if you eat pizza, if you eat some bad stuff that same day, it's okay, because that's what the body will burn. But if you only eat bad stuff, then our body and the cells do not have the right nutrients to renew, replenish, repair. And that's when we get degeneration and mutation, and that's disease. So, you know, it doesn't mean we got to give up everything that we like, but we just got to make sure we get all those nutrients on a daily basis. What do you think about that philosophy, Terry?
Well, one of my favorite products is called Clinical Essentials. It's a vitamin supplement that you take 2 to 4 tablets a day. It gives you all the vitamins and minerals and in the potencies that you should require.
Yeah, much higher.
And I always tell people, take this for 3 months, and if you're not absolutely impressed after 3 months, I'll give you your money back for all 3 months.
Yeah.
We need to start with the basics. We need to start with all the vitamins and minerals. All those other herbal medicines are fantastic when we need them, or we can use them as a preventative, but you can't go without the basic vitamins and minerals, because every time we miss a vitamin, every time we miss a mineral, like zinc only stays in the body for 2 weeks. All these nutrients are being washed out of our body, and if we don't replenish them, we have signs and symptoms of some kind of consequences, and then those consequences are treated by a drug because they show signs and symptoms of something that's negative. So then they prescribe a drug for what a vitamin, because of a lack of a vitamin causing a certain condition, then they prescribe a drug for it. Let's just go back to basic vitamins and minerals, but that is also not a reason not to eat well.
Yeah, no, of course.
Vitamins and minerals, eat your junk food.
No, it's not. It's not.
The basic diet.
You're correct.
Food, basic supplements.
There's a reason you call them supplements, because they supplement a healthy diet. They don't replace a healthy diet.
Right. But what we have is the standard American diet, which is the standard American diet is what Terry's describing. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's going to be new research done where people are not being able to go out to eat at the fast food restaurant. I'm going to tell you there's going to be an uptick in good health only because people are now eating at home. I know it because I run a Whole Food store.
Yeah.
And I mean, for the last 4 months, the people they're getting it, Terry, and they're cooking at home.
That health is a birthright. They should have it.
Yep.
And only can do it on their own. We are responsible for our health. Nobody else. No doctor, no chiropractor, nobody else. We have to get back and do what's necessary. Have the discipline. Give up the junk foods. You know, sugar drives cancer. All the cells need a fuel to grow, to spread. And sugar spreads the cancer cells.
We're preaching to ourselves.
We sell Dr. Thomas Seyfried's fundamental cancer is a metabolic disease. And again, with the cancer treatment center down the road, I had a conversation with probably the most famous oncologist in Volusia County, and he said there are no studies that show that there's a link between sugar consumption and metastasis of cancer. And I didn't get into a slugfest. I just handed them a copy of Seyfried's book, which that book is so meticulous that you'd have to be malignant dumb to come to the conclusion at the end, just what Terry said. Sugar feeds the cancer. How do we know that? Because the gold standard for knowing where the cancer is a PET scan. What is a PET scan? You inject the body with radioactive sugars. Yeah. I mean, I'm not dishing on them. And Anita and I worked with Bernie Siegel at Yale New Haven Medical Center. But what made Bernie unique as an oncologist? He wanted the best of both worlds. He was combining. If his grandmother's Yiddish chicken soup with all the glandulars, and you're looking at a gentleman that reintroduced glandular therapy to the medical vernacular 30 years ago, and I mean that. Mm-hmm. He still uses glandulars. That was what Bernie Siegel found. It wasn't the meat of the white chicken meat that gave the benefit. It was boiling the liver and boiling the gizzard and the different parts what vitalized you if you were fighting at that point the common flu. It just chicken soup is. But Terry understood that if you're doing chemo, if you're not having regular enough water to cause your body to excrete all of the dead cancer cells, then you would literally die from the toxemia, just what you said, of the therapy. He didn't fault the therapy. Yeah. It just said most cancer victims at the time were not told you need to drink half of your body weight in water if you're on chemo. And Terry knows that. We're looking for compliments. And Terry's right. The idea is to overcome the challenge. But for the other part of our audience, the other part is don't get the challenge. But if you've got it, sure, take advantage. These people have certainly a piece of the puzzle, but it never replaces exercise, sleep, waste elimination, good nutrition, super nutrition, not just adequate, and then the supplementation for herbs that normally we would never be exposed to.
No, exactly. And so, there's many resources. There's people like Terry and Mitch where you always can go and ask for advice. That's what we do. We educate, we give advice, and we steer people in the right direction with literature and websites and whatever it is. Because once they decide to take that road to optimal health, that's where we are to coach them into that right direction, right? And so when it comes to our immune system, this book of mine came out 2 weeks ago. I'm sure Mitch is going to go through it, but basically, it explains to people also what our immune system really is, because everybody knows that name, immune system, but it explains in very simple way on that we actually have two immune systems, our innate immune system, and then which is our cell-mediated immune system, and then the immune system that makes our antibodies. But more importantly, people, when they hear immune system, they don't know what it means. It means our lymphatic system, because it basically, transports our immune cells, our white blood cells, right? So our lymphatic system is like a plumbing system, and we need to keep it flowing, and we need to keep it unclogged. And that's where the movement and the exercise and vibrational therapies, etc., come in. Then obviously, Terry already mentioned, up to 80% of the immune system is the gut. So we got to watch what we put in our body, because it all goes through the gut, and we got to keep the gut healthy. And that's where our fermented foods, our kimchi, our kombucha, our spirulina, our chlorella. And if you don't like to eat that stuff, well, then get a good probiotic supplement, right? But all that needs to be there to really make sure that our gut biome stays healthy. Especially a lot of drugs will kill it, right?
And then we know chemo in particular has a terrible impact on the body.
We have our respiratory system, which is part of the immune system. That's why you can't smoke, right? We got the cilia, which is the little hairs in our throat that clear viruses and bacteria out of the body before they get in. Our tonsils have a purpose there if they didn't take them away yet, right? Our skin is a huge part of our immune system, because there's millions and millions. Spleen has an important role in all of this too. So that's what the book explains. But then we go into what can you do now and how can you build that immune system. And obviously it talks about how to keep your lymph flow going, how to keep your gut healthy. It talks about all those herbs and plants and adaptogens and zinc and echinacea and endographis that we talked about. It explains all why they are important. And it also, the last chapter talks about what you mentioned earlier, our mind, our stress, and the power of our mind, and how important it is for our health and also our immune system. So it's a pretty lengthy chapter on that, because it's still a very important part when it comes to health, controlling our stress, controlling our emotions, and all kinds of techniques, behavioral modification things to really get a hand and a grip on that. So for everybody watching, this book is available on my website, mikevantielen.com or mvtonline.com. Proceeds of my books always go to charity. I don't make any money on this. This is educational. I'm not trying to sell books. This is kind of a starting point for you. Get a basic information on what the immune system is and which directions you can go. And then you can contact us, any of us, anybody in the health field. They call it alternative medicine, even though we were there 1,000 years before modern medicine was here, right? But anyways, just look into this. Worst case scenario, you just get healthier, feel better, have energy. What's bad? What's wrong with that, right, Terry?
That's absolutely right. That's the way it should be.
People just are.
Yeah. We are.
But I think the problem still is people always want that silver or magic bullet, that one pill that solves everything overnight. And so, yes, this is going to take a little bit of effort. But what people don't realize, if you start something new, it becomes a habit much faster than you think it becomes a habit. So it usually only takes like a week or 2, 3, and changing those habits. And when you then feel better, because those things we're talking about do work, we're all a product of our own product, right? I can vouch for, many of those things that helped me. And last year, I even set a world record, Terry. But all those things, once you put in just a few weeks of effort and you start feeling better, you're probably not going to stop now, right?
No,
because now you feel better. And so now you're on the bandwagon and on the road to optimal health. So just take that effort to look into this, get a little bit of help, get a little bit of coaching from Terry or Mitch or myself or anybody else that is into this field to guide you in the right direction. Put in a little bit of effort. And as soon as you feel the benefits, you will be excited. No more energy, not fatigued. You're starting to lose weight. Mental clarity, we can keep on going. And that's what should be the driving factor for you to continue and help your loved ones also to do the same.
I just want to invite everyone. Terry is absolutely my mentor. And I want to say thank you. This just has been a real gift to me. The greater gift is the knowledge that Terry has always made concomitant with the products that he sells, We did the article on, for our viewers that are struggling with sleep and anxiety, we have a product that is incomparable. We've got the literature that goes with it, the AnxioCalm. I've got the items that Terry has mentioned. I've decided to put them all on sale for the entire month of July at a sale price. And I don't need to tell everyone, we've repeated it a couple of times. The literature is free, even if you just want to get your knowledge base brought up.
Yeah, just come in and get some flyers. Don't buy anything.
In many cases, we give out samples, but Terry and I both know that if you want to experience andrographis, one sample is not going to, you need to make a commitment to 30 days typically. Terry always taught me at least 30 days.
Yeah.
Maybe two, and oftentimes I'll have people come, well, I felt a little bit better, but for the $50 I spent, I wanted more. Then I said, take a second bottle and I'll give a refund for both bottles.
Yeah.
I'm serious. But the first step is to come into the store or to come and buy your book, which we'll have in the store, and then take Terry's invitation to really make a commitment to changing the recipe. Just like Bernie Siegel said, if you change the recipe, you'll come up with a different cake. You know, he was never, you know, a medical jargon guy. If sugar is a food group or smoking, let's just take, because back then everybody was smoking. This is in the mid 80s. If you cut off the smoking and do what we've mentioned, the selenium just as one, or the clinical essentials is my multiple vitamin, and do it. You change the recipe, you're going to get a different outcome. You have to. There's
no other way.
It's axiomatic. It is what's going to happen. You'll get what you put your mind to, and that's it. It's mind, body, and spirit. And we've touched on all three. Yeah. But I think that mental commitment is almost the most important one. Yeah. Sometimes, as Terry knows, you know, when you've been down so long, it looks like, you know,
it's normal.
It's normal. Then it really takes somebody to come into the store and talk to another customer that said, yeah, that product really worked. Yeah. You know, one didn't do it. I needed to do 3 for a while. And then when it kicked in, I dropped back to what was on the label. That's one of my pet peeves. Yeah, what I like
to do, I want to always prove that it works for them. So I tell them for 30 to 60 days, go double or triple the dose, and if it doesn't work, never take it again. That's what I tell them. You know, Terry, do you have a website, or where can people follow you?
Well, I do have a website. It's called TerryTalksNutrition.com.
TerryTalksNutrition.com.
Saturday and Sunday, and it's live streamed to the computer. So they can follow me anywhere around the world. I've got listeners in India and Australia and Germany and the UK, and I do a newsletter. It goes out every Friday to your email address. So if you want to subscribe, go to my website. The website's got a lot of good tips on how to be healthy and nutrition oriented, so that you can become healthier. I did a live Facebook yesterday on AnxioCalm. Very, very well received. We had thousands of viewers that watched the live event. On the 15th of this month, tomorrow, I'll do a live event on Facebook on red ginseng, one of my favorite adaptogens, the oldest adaptogen in the world. If people want to follow me, I'm out there to help them. They can even go to my website and ask me a question, and I'll give them an answer. So, what should I take? How much should I take? Yeah. How about this product? Is this product any good? Ask me anything you want, and I'll give you my answer.
We're always there to help. So if you go to TerryTalksNutrition.com, you can go find your social media. You can subscribe to the newsletter, and they can get in contact with you. Correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
And both stores are here to help facilitate it. Also, it's listed on each piece of unique literature that I'm very proud to have in the store. But the pick it up and and get plugged in.
I know when you come in Mitch's store, there's brochures and flyers and things everywhere. He gave me little books in the past. Oh, Mike, you want this? here's some literature on it, and that doesn't cost anything, right? But that's always available. And even if you just want to go in to grab some information, just go grab it, right? Just go grab it. Terry, any last words for our viewers?
Well, you don't have to be smart to be healthy. Just ask questions of those that are in the know. Find yourself a mentor and start asking questions. Anybody can be healthy if they decide they want to be. And it's easy to do. In fact, in some of our cases of cancer, when it's diagnosed, you think you just received the worst word in the world. But actually, it's in about 40 years of growth before it's diagnosed. Some
Exactly.
20 years, some 40 years. It isn't just something that just came up by surprise. So it takes some time to reverse all that. If you want to reverse cancer, if you want to reverse arthritis, don't give up. You look for a way to do it, because there's ways out there. And the first thing you try may not work. Try something else. But you've got a great store, Love Whole Natural Foods, with Mitch and Paula. They'll help you a great deal. Here's a great book from Dr. Mike. These are the ways to help teach yourself to be healthy for yourself and your family. Just don't give up. Everybody has health within the reach if you want to reach out there and grab it.
That's right. Take responsibility. Mitch, any last words for the viewers?
No, it just Terry
did it all, right?
You did it. Just come on in. The green tea's on me. I'm serious. I invite each and every one of you to come into the store. You don't need to buy anything. It's not about infomercials and sales pitches. It's just what Terry said. It's about love. It's about love and changing the recipe and getting the cake that you want.
Yep, that's very, very well said. Gentlemen, thank you both very much for being in. Terry, I'm sure we'll be on again sometime about one or another topic. Very interesting to share this wealth of knowledge with our viewers. And for those who are viewing, always remember, choose health freedom.
That went great.
That was great, guy.
That
Thank
was
you very much.
the